Comments of the host and guest of this particular show.
Good morning, Milwaukee. Good morning. Happy Tuesday. A little overcast today, but still nice and warm out there. Hope you all get out and enjoy it a little bit. I am Joe Dray, Policy Director with Wisconsin Voices, and I am back from my trip. Made a small trip down to Atlanta for a conference over this past week. I want to say thank you to Lanisha for filling in for me yesterday. I heard she did a fantastic job. Always great to get her perspective and insight on things. She's just had so many different things, done so many different things throughout the community. She's always like my number one go-to, Jermaine, when I got to fill in for somebody real quick. Need somebody to fill in for. She does a great job as our communications manager. For sure. But yeah, as we're waiting on my co-host, Mr. Bryan Sanders, to get here, Jermaine's mysterious balloon in southeast Wisconsin. So we have some late breaking news, y'all. There is a mysterious balloon in southeast Wisconsin.
What's going on with that, man?
I don't know. Well, they had that thing back, months ago or even a year ago.
Shooting it down.
They shot the one down only after it had traveled all the way across the country.
Right. Gathering intelligence
over a couple nuclear sites or something like that. But yeah, I don't know how with the clouds and everything, I don't know how you would see a balloon up there today.
So it's probably showing on the radar that it's something on the
right.
radar.
You're right.
And then, checking and, with the flights and things like that, it's like, okay, if it's not airplanes, what's going on?
Yeah, because some of them things get up there pretty high.
Yeah.
And where airplanes do travel.
Yeah.
So it's got to be a risk, having just flown, that's a little terrifying to know that there's objects up there just kind of floating around that nobody really knows.
And you don't know what it is. You don't know what's in it. You don't know.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Interesting. So we'll have to keep an eye on that, see if anything comes about of the mysterious balloon over southeast Wisconsin. I'm going to guess if it's up there near the jet stream, though, it's not going to be over southeast Wisconsin for very much longer.
Oh, yeah, it's going to blow. It's out of there.
It's going to be back in Ohio. It's going to be over in Ohio before you know it. But yeah, we got a good show today. Had a little technical difficulties at the office this morning with internet being down, but I'm going to do our best to give you a good show today. Guess I'll kick right into some legislative updates. Always like to go through these and just make sure that our listeners are informed and know what's going on around the state and around Milwaukee and in our nation. So today at 1 o'clock, in about 2 hours, the Wisconsin State Assembly will have a floor session where they will discuss several bills, more than I think we have time on this show to talk about. Some of them include Wisconsin health and educational facilities, ratification of social workers license, just a number of different provisions, income change notifications for child support and maintenance orders. Here's an interesting one: use of certified seed potatoes in planting potatoes and providing a penalty. Interesting. We might have to look that one up for next week, Brian.
What is that?
Check that out. It's a potato law.
Potato law.
Potato law. I wish I had more information on it right off the top of my head here. Didn't have a lot of time this morning to really dig into some of those, but a plethora of bills that are going to be discussed starting at 1:00 today with the Wisconsin State Assembly. So you want to be sure to tune into that. Lots and lots and lots of bills going through today and being voted on. The governor's early childhood advisory council will meet tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. The Assembly Committee on Health, Aging, and Long-Term Care will meet at 10 a.m. tomorrow. We'll be talking about Assembly Bill 253, 294, and 295. A lot to do with the membership of the nursing boards, allowing certified advanced practice nurse prescribes to engage in the practice of radiology. And then the Senate Committee on Transportation and Local Government will meet at 12:30. We'll meet on a number of different bills being discussed. And that kind of does it for our state assembly. I think that the big event is today at 1:00 that's happening in Madison, which is a big floor vote, floor discussion and floor vote today. So
I definitely hit the bunch of topics yesterday since you was out. We did Monday political talk. So we had a guest yesterday too. Shout out again to Kerry Jenkins. But we went over. I didn't go into a lot of the specifics of some of the state bill, some of the vote for today that was going on. I know it's a vote on the 26th too. Correct, local state vote too. Is it local or?
Yeah, that would be. Yeah,
I think
that was committees.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
I believe that was committees.
Yeah.
That are meeting. Senate Committee. Yeah, on transportation and local government.
Yeah, whatever the meat you got. Yeah, I'm definitely sure it's something that we need to get out. Still, we got a call, huh?
Yeah. Let's get to it right away.
You're on the air. Be Voice Radio, Wisconsin Voices. Good morning.
Excuse me, Jonah. Hey, Joe.
Yes, sir.
Excuse me, United States Navy.
Yes, sir.
From the days, Joe.
Where was you the other day? I was trying to shout out the U.S. Navy. I gave a big shout out. I thought that was going to be your opportunity to call in, and I didn't hear from you.
Yes, sir. And I apologize for that.
That's all
young
good.
Man. I'm gonna apologize for that because when you gave me a shout out, you thought I was part of the Navy, which I am.
Mm-hmm.
But however, I served in the Marines.
Okay. Oh, well, yeah.
All right.
Hey,
so
still
I'm
part of the Navy.
Hey, Joe, I'm just old-fashioned Marine, sir.
Still
But
part of the
anyway,
Navy.
Joe.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Joe. Mr. Scrub-a-dub-dub, these Greek quiz and the stuff. Hey, Joe.
Yes, sir.
I just want to say, sir, thank you so very much. And now, who's that sitting next to you?
That'd be Mr. Bryan Sanders.
Mr. Bryan Sanders.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, young man. Hey, young man.
Yes, sir.
Back in the days, don't get mad at me, okay?
Yeah.
Don't get mad at me. I'm going to say this real quick.
Okay.
But Bryan,
Yeah.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, my brother, because you was there with Homer Blow, everybody else back in the days. Remember? And remember when y'all was there?
I wasn't there yet, but I came in. My first time actually getting in the mix was with Keon with the Man Show.
Yeah,
So,
Mr. Keon, Justin Malone.
Yeah. Keon was
Yes,
the one that
sir.
put me on in 2022. I've always
Yes,
had
sir.
a strong passion for working in like broadcasting and TV and media, but never really never pushed it. But
y'all was there. Y'all was there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm looking forward to more opportunities in the future besides be a voice for Wisconsin Voices. But yeah, definitely was yeah. I remember them early era. I heard about a lot of it. That was way before my time, though. Before I got here.
You know what?
Oh,
You've been there and you've done that. So, young man.
Yes, sir.
Excuse me. I don't mean to be disrespectful or anything, but when Keon Justin Malone had his Man Show. And he had the Man Show, he had your show. And you was there. Y'all was there when Keon Jackson Malone was doing that. So, young man, one thing I want to say, thank you for being there So excuse me, okay?
Oh yeah, it's okay.
That's what I want to say. And Joe,
Yes, sir.
United States Navy.
Yes, sir.
And on that I want to go. Excuse me for getting off the subject or anything that you're going to talk about today. But Joe,
Yes, sir.
as being a veteran,
Mm-hmm.
how do you feel about what Donald Trump is doing?
Well, one thing
you know I had to go there, right?
right. I mean, one thing is, my opinions, is just my opinions.
Yes, sir.
And Wisconsin Voices, we don't really take a position on certain things, but how can I talk about it personally and what, at least what I feel about what's going on, recently. I think me and Bryan's probably going to dip into some of that today.
I'm sure
we're going to dip into, talking about some of the things, especially between Iran and Israel.
Yeah,
and
we started yesterday. We didn't get to go into a lot because it was like the last 5 minutes. So
Right.
today we can definitely extend the time. And open
yeah.
up the airwaves.
And we'll definitely talk a little bit about that. And maybe I'll even interject a little bit of my opinion, but I try not to. I try just to, give you this.
Pardon, United States Navy.
Stay right down the middle, and stay right on the line.
And maybe.
Yes.
Excuse me, not to cut you off, not to be disrespectful.
No, you're
Joe. Fine. But Joe, I'm a Marine. I served in Vietnam, so screw that.
Right.
But Bryan, he was there with Mr. Hey, Bryan.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Excuse me, who was you there with? Mr. Who?
Besides, it's Joe, Bryan, and you got Byron in studio. Well, I think you did.
Mr. Keon Justin Malone.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Keon Justin Malone. He was no joke.
Yeah.
Keon Justin Malone.
Yeah.
Well, you come on now, because when y'all was there at the table, Mr. Keon Justin Malone had a program, with young people came up and stuff, and we talk about the real stuff.
Yeah.
So excuse me, I'm gonna back up. I'm gonna back up my truck. Okay.
Yeah. No, we appreciate it. We got a few topics we got to get through for the moment.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah, we just gonna we're gonna catch you on the flip side. Call back in when we get to talk about the other stuff. But thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for calling in. Sometimes we just got to cut them off a little bit. No disrespect. We just want to get through some of Joe's topics, but we will be in contact with you. And
Yeah. So did you guys talk about the big beautiful bill yesterday?
We didn't get deep into the big beautiful bill, but I would love for you to let's go ahead and get into
I'll
the
get
big
into
beautiful
it.
bill.
So Senate Republicans are aggressively revising the massive tax and spending reconciliation bill passed by the Senate passed by the House, pardon me, dubbed the big beautiful bill with an eye towards the July 4th deadline. They're definitely talking about the Medicaid provision or Medicaid provider tax cut and some of the cuts, all the cuts that we had heard about and discussed several times before. So it's moving through.
He said,
it's moving through the Senate.
Yeah.
We'll leave it at that. Also, Iran war powers and military briefings. I think this is just one of those old debates. And we can get into this here maybe after our break so we don't get interrupted, Bryan. But, the powers of the president versus the powers of Congress and who has certain powers and do they really fit the current world and the current model that we live in? So there's going to be definitely some briefings. Senator Schumer and Kane will be briefed, possibly open, maybe also classified by intelligence leaders from the CIA on Trump's recent Iran strikes. A war power resolution may follow, a procedural vote possibly as soon as tomorrow. And then on to the House. Doing fentanyl scheduling vote. So I expect to vote this week on the Senate passed measure permanently classifying fentanyl-related substances as a Schedule 1 narcotic, which I think we discussed a little bit last week. Kind of bumping up those classifications as to what fentanyl is,
Yeah.
as being a relatively, with air quotes, relatively new thing onto the market. It's kind of crazy, even as you've seen, some of the things that came out, like the spices and those different the bath salts that we had came out at a time, and how lawmakers had to work so fast to
because people
combat, because they would just go back and change one chemical in, or take one thing out and add something else, and lawmakers are like, have to go back to the table and draft to ban a certain substance out of there. So it was just like a cat chase.
Yeah, you know what? It reminds me of that era of the cough syrup and everything, and how it was just like, it went from you being able to run inside a restaurant, run inside a store and grab the cough syrup that you want, and then, all of a sudden, boom, everything was locked up. You can't go in there without getting approval, permission from somebody at a drugstore because of the way the new process is with the changes in, the demand for that cough syrup to, I believe that was for, I don't know if that was for crystal meth, or I can't remember what they was using to make what the man.
Well, I know Sudafed. Sudafed was a big one that, like, if you go and you try to buy more than one box of Sudafed at the store, they're gonna at least back in Ohio they did. I don't know. I don't use Sudafed, but
I know it was a big thing, and it was spoke about different cough syrups and medicines and limits on how much you can get, because they were, of course, making different drugs and things. So then of course it has to go through some type of law and rules and policy. But something as extreme as fentanyl and street fentanyl needs to be controlled, because I mean, we see it. Innocent people are getting this stuff underneath their nails, fingernails, underneath their skin, or just a little speck of it, and it's taking people out. And it only got to be the small of a grain of sugar.
Yeah, or getting hooked.
Yeah.
So fast on something like that, and we've seen the epidemic in the city, but I've seen it in the rural area as well. It's just as bad in the rural areas. It touches every community, and I think it's really tough now to find a family that hasn't been affected by opioids or fentanyl, in some way, shape, or form. Either we've known somebody that has overdosed on opioids or fentanyl, or we've heard about somebody we went to school with, or wherever.
And when it starts affecting other communities, that's when the governments kick in. When it starts affecting, be honest, the white community, that's when they're like, okay, we're losing our white folks to this drug that it was only taking out minorities. Let's go ahead and put some type of laws or put enforcement in it. And once it starts touching the suburbs, and the last 5-6 years easily, that's when I start seeing all this demand, all this crazy conversation coming from the rural areas, the suburbs, and and everybody has something to say. But long as it was impacting people in poverty layers, or cities that are affected. But people don't think you live in these safe suburbs, and you got kids and parents and adults that travel into the city, and have habits, and people have habits they don't speak about, and stuff will just because you're put up don't mean that you can't be affected by it. And we see how quick it spread. It wasn't just a city thing with the fentanyl. It spread all across the country, and it's in, like you said, rural places that you wouldn't even think of, and it's an issue because too peer pressure, you're bored, there's nothing to do, you see something that everybody's taking, you already was a drug you was already addicted to this certain types of drugs already. So there's no issue of trying this next one that's going to take you to the next level. And obviously we know fentanyl is taking people to their last level, sadly.
Right. And going back to you talked about how nothing really happened until it got into the white communities and the small rural towns. You're absolutely right. I was on city council when we filed a lawsuit, a class action lawsuit on the behalf of many other the states filed lawsuits on behalf of municipalities, I believe. And then, we got some trickle down money from that, but it was like, that was the response, is we're going to sue you. Instead of really coming back and saying, what kind of way can we solve this problem? How can we solve it before it gets into our communities? So when it's in the cities, how, these are the things. And it was something that I learned at this conference as well, is that connection between the two. The problems sometimes are very similar. You can almost compare and contrast. You go to certain places, and I've been, through Appalachia, and people are living in poverty, and you come to the city, and people are living in poverty. You see it across the spectrum, and
Big
it's
time.
like these are areas where we should be uniting and coming together.
Yeah.
Instead of pointing out, saying, well, here's how we're all different. No, here's how we're the same. And when it affects one community, it affects all of us.
Like you said, the money trickle down. You don't think the drug and the crime is not going to trickle down to certain places, right?
Yeah. I mean, you got to
the
be
money
a fool.
come in. The crime is going to come in. I mean, we see that in places. I mean, we see that in certain. I look at certain cities. They grow, and of course, everything comes in. I mean, you can look at the beginning of Miami.
Right.
If we want to go the most easiest one, that's one of the most easiest. And Miami was built off of drug money, but guess what came with it? Crime, sexual assaults,
Murders.
legal murders. They had to put
heinous murders.
Man, heinous murders. I mean, you watch some of those documentaries. There was so much going on. They would have to put bodies in Burger King freezers because they were so packed, across the city. They had to store bodies in freezer trucks. And I was watching a documentary and it was speaking on that. So all that stuff trickles down into the cities, and of course, if it's Miami was getting hit, everything around Miami had issues.
Absolutely. It just funneled right. Back in the 80s, I know that's what you're talking about there, but it funneled right through the country.
Yeah,
it funneled through Miami to the rest of the country, and essentially that's then all of a sudden in Philadelphia you have a crack cocaine epidemic. And then and it's the same thing that we're seeing with the fentanyl and the opioids nowadays. Is it's the same
30,
epidemic
35 years later, 30 to 40 years later.
It's just something different.
And it's more universal now, in the sense of you don't see just strung out Black and Latinos on the streets. This is the most I've ever seen strung out white folks. I mean, even going to Denver, I was in Denver, and it was just, I've never seen that many. I was like, it was more strung out white people on the street in Denver than I seen strung out Black people, and that's probably just where I was at in that space. But it was just surprising, and I'm seeing it more, and it's showing you that it's a change and what's going on, and how these drugs are affecting just not our community and in these cities, but just all across the country. So great topic, and we can go deep in that. If y'all got any comments on any of that, 414-444-5253. Talk with Joe, chopping it with Joe, whatever you want to call it.
Chop it with Bryan.
Don't put it back on me. All right, cool. Chopping it with Bryan and Joe today. Y'all got any questions? Give us a call, please, on any topics. We'll be back via Voice Radio, Wisconsin Voice.
AURN News.
I'm Jamie Jackson. The Cato Institute is drawing attention to how the Trump administration's deportation efforts are affecting people who aren't violent criminals. According to their report, ICE had booked over 204,000 individuals into detention as of June 14th. Of those, 65% had no criminal convictions. More than 93% had never been convicted of a violent offense. About 9 in 10 had no convictions for violent or property crimes at all. Cato says that more than half of all convictions fell into 3 main categories: immigration violations, traffic offenses, or nonviolent vice crimes. The analysis also found that nearly 45,000 people were booked with only a pending charge, not a conviction, and that ICE sometimes labels these individuals as criminals. Cato says that's misleading and a violation of due process. For AURN News, I'm Jamie Jackson.
I'm Andrea Albers with this TMJ4 News update. In comments to reporters outside the White House this morning, President Donald Trump says both Iran and Israel violated a ceasefire agreement that went into effect overnight. The ceasefire comes amid a final wave of Iranian attacks that killed at least 3 people in southern Israel. On Monday, Iran fired missiles at U.S. troops in Qatar in retaliation for U.S. airstrikes on Iranian nuclear sites over the weekend. No injuries were reported. The trial for the man accused of killing a newlywed couple in an Elkhorn bar will continue today. Thomas Rout has pleaded not guilty in the deaths of Gina and Emerson Weingart. The 2 were shot and killed in February of last year at the Sports Page bar during a robbery. Rout is facing life in prison if convicted. Kroger, the parent company of Pick and Save and Metro Market, is closing more than 60 of its stores over the next year and a half. We've now learned that those stores include 5 locations in our area. The West Silver Spring Drive location in Glendale, 2 stores in Milwaukee on 27th and 35th Street, 1 store on West Ryan Road in Oak Creek, and the South Chicago Avenue store in South Milwaukee. Later today, the Milwaukee Common Council will take up the issue of the flag of Milwaukee. The council will vote on the forming of a Milwaukee City Flag Task Force. Its goal will be to manage a new campaign to solicit, evaluate, and recommend a new flag design. The task force is expected to pick a new flag and have it voted on by the council by the end of this year. To watch and read these stories and more, go to tmj4.com.
Here's your updated forecast. We'll see a few scattered showers and thunderstorms here for today with cloudy skies and a high into the upper 70s. We'll have winds out of the northeast around 5 to 10 miles per hour. For tonight, a chance for showers and storms, cloudy, a low near 61. By Wednesday, chance for showers and storms, cloudy, high of 69 degrees. And Thursday, a chance for showers and thunderstorms, cloudy, high of 79. By Friday, another chance for rain and storms, high of 84. Meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki on AM 860 The Voice.
Remembering what we stand for. At Wisconsin Voices, we remember what we stand for. Check out our movement dedicated to empowering citizens and shaping the future. Engage with us on our website, social media, and podcast to make a difference. Visit wisconsinvoices.org. Explore our events calendar, like and subscribe to us on social media. Listen to recent podcasts and radio, and subscribe to our email and newsletter. Amplify your voice and be a voice today.
Wisconsin Voice's 3 pillars are protecting democracy. Your vote is your voice. Wisconsin Voices works to protect democracy in Wisconsin by fighting voter suppression, promoting voting rights, and ensuring fair elections for all. Teaching advocacy. Teaching advocacy empowers and educates advocates in Wisconsin by offering training, resources, and support to enhance their skills, fostering a more informed and effective advocacy community for social and economic change. Building community. Wisconsin Voices builds strong communities for a healthy democracy by collaborating with diverse partners, creating networks for positive change, and fostering a sense of belonging and common purpose. Learn more about Wisconsin Voices by going to wisconsinvoices.org. Learn more about what our partners are doing by visiting the events calendar. Listen to recent episodes by going to our podcast and radio. Get involved today.
You're listening to Wisconsin Voices, Be a Voice Radio. Follow us at BAWI Voice and learn more at wisconsinvoices.org.
860 AM, 106.5 FM. WNOV, The Voice.
All right, welcome back to Be a Voice Radio, Wisconsin Voices. This is Bryan Sanders, community outreach organizer for Wisconsin Voices, along with the co-hosts Drizzy Dro, Joe Dray. No, Joe Dray. Yo, I want to say when we walked in, man, I like them glasses, man.
Thanks. Yeah, I got some
them
new
lenses
glasses.
look crispy.
Appreciate it.
See, I went crazy with mine too. You see, I've been popping up with different lenses every day. You know, the ones I wore yesterday, they got the what they call it. I said transparent, but what's the
transition
lenses? You know, I like transition lenses. They always try to say the old school cats wear them, but I like them.
I don't.
You don't like them?
I don't like them.
He said, "Look," he said, "Cool." He said,
I just went through this whole process with new glasses. I got a pair of
you didn't want to get no
prescription sunglasses too. And yeah, I mean, I went through this whole thing. It was like transition and then these other different things that they do to your
They got
glasses.
that little blue stuff, the blue one now for the screens. You know, this one can help with blue light when you screen. But I'm like, I can just change the blue light
mirrored, the mirrored outside. Do you want them special treatment? I'm like, I don't know. You know, luckily Amanda's an eye specialist, and that's kind of what she does. So she was there to help guide me through the whole process.
Oh yeah, it's good. And go get your eyes checked, people. It's healthy. Men, go to the doctor,
Yes.
get your eyes checked, please. I got family members that's going to get their checks and doing everything that needs to be done. So shout out to everybody in my camps and circles that's taking care of themselves. And people, just go get your eyes checked, get those things done, because as we age, those are one of the first things to go. So,
and you only get one set.
You only get one set. You want to take advantage of them for real. We do not want any issues. Now, while we were on break, we got a call from a Miss Teresa. I want to shout out Miss Teresa. Thanks for listening to the radio and being a listener of Be a Voice Radio and WNOV. We were talking. She called us and was like, "Hey, could you, is there a way that you guys or somebody could talk to the governor or somebody in a higher space about some of the closings of some of the stores, or could you just highlight that?" And this is what we're doing. We're gonna highlight. So what's going on is, and I know Joe, you might have missed it because you've been on, traveling a little bit, and we just got this news yesterday. And Jermaine, anything that you see on this, you are more than tap in on it as well. I appreciate your intake all the time. So grocery chain Pick and Save is closing 5 Milwaukee area locations. If you did not see this yesterday, to our listeners and our viewers, the following locations will be closed. You do have 1735 West Silver Spring Drive in Glendale, 3701 South 27th Street, Milwaukee, 2355 North 35th Street. And that's the one that she called about and was speaking about. We also have 2931 South Chicago Avenue, that's South Milwaukee. And then we have 2320 West Ryan Road in Oak Creek. So the ones that I know that I can speak about personally, that I've, patronized myself, you got 35th Street, and the Glendale one are stores over the years. If they change from whatever they were, a Pick and Save or whatever, especially the one in Glendale, that was pretty frequently traveled store. There are not too many grocery options for people that live in that Lincoln Park area south of Glendale. For most people, they would have to either go towards Capitol over here, go to this grocery store, East Capitol, hit up Trader Joe. And some people who I see all the time, because I frequently travel in Glendale up and down Silver Spring, a lot of people drive to that store. I seen a man the other day who was in a wheelchair. He was pushing himself to the store, So that store, I know for sure. I got friends and family members that go to that store all the time. So it's going to impact people who have less means to get around, less accessibility. And I believe that if there is a closing of that store in that community, in that space, this would be the opportunity when a company hopefully does decide to come in, instead of it just sitting there vacant for months and years, and then all of a sudden it turns into a new condo high rise that gets smashed down. Food deserts are consistently popping up in Milwaukee, but we also need to make sure that we support and look at opportunities for other grocery stores to be put into our neighborhoods. We more chains that I guess, see, Pick and Save, they went through a lot of changes. The organization, the company that owns them, they were brought out. Kroger was brought out. Then they were trying to do a deal that just went sour recently. So that there needs to be a some type of, I don't want to say like a Save-A-Lot or something, but something there that needs to come in to make sure that, not only because there's a lot of elderly in that area. So I think more about the elderly that live in the complexes across the street in Glendale. It's a lot of people that use that. There's a lot of districts or neighborhoods in that little 2.5, 3.5 mile radius, thousands of people who frequent that grocery store. So
I think a lot of this goes back to some of the discussions you and I have had, Bryan, about development and economic development and investments into certain parts of the city. And when you don't invest in new infrastructure, you don't build new roads, you don't build new curbs, you don't make it more accessible, businesses aren't going to stick around. And I think that's that's one element of it. And as we were talking during the break, like Jermaine had mentioned, when they don't make money, it's not really a hard decision to close up shop and say we're going to consolidate we're going to move our stores, and we have 10 stores. We're going to go down to 7 stores. Let's pick the 7 best stores and close the worst 3. You know, that's just an example. But, you know, there has to be a real investment into our neighborhoods. There has to be more of a commitment from city, county, state, from private donors, private investors, and from local citizens as well, forming action groups that are trying to bring in more of that, you know, economic boom, as you would call it, you know, into our neighborhood or into our area. But yeah, when you're not making money, I mean, it really is an easy business decision. But I don't think that, you know, this is a problem with some corporations sometimes, is they don't care about the food desert. They don't care about the 80-year-old grandmother that has to walk right now 2 or 3 blocks to go get groceries. Now is going to have to walk 1.5 miles to go get groceries. They just see the bottom line. They don't really see the impact of what those decisions do. So then, you know, as a corporation, they're kind of free to do what they want. They can open and close stores, they can move out, whatever. So it's really becomes incumbent upon the citizens to reach out to your local elected officials and say, hey, we've got a food desert here in your district. How are you? What things are you doing to help resolve this? Because the state's not going to build a grocery store. The city of Milwaukee is not going to say, okay, we've opened the city of Milwaukee grocery store. It's now open for business. It doesn't work like that.
You got to invite a new.
You got to
take.
You got to attract,
and you got to take risks, because you're gonna lose. You're losing profit when, you know. Let's be honest. A lot of these stores have been probably impacted by, you know, certain, you know, situations that they felt that they were losing money and they weren't profiting, and that was probably one of the biggest moves, just like we've seen in people in Milwaukee. And they can call in and say I'm right or wrong, but they've seen stores and places close due to the crime in that area. You know, we lost a lot of Walgreens in the last 5 to 10 years, 10, 15 years. People been robbing and going up in Walgreens in Milwaukee. That was never a thing. Then all of a sudden, we had people, you know, that they're gonna look at that. How many cases, how many crimes has that store had? You know, all that. Once you start seeing Targets closing, I never seen Targets closing. Besides, when I was a kid and we had a Target at Capitol Court. That Target was the first Target I got me my first mountain bike. Shout out to my granny for taking me to get my first 10 speed. You know,
nice.
But yeah, you seen them Targets and all that closed as a kid. You don't think about, man, why that Target closed? But yeah, you got folks in a board sitting somewhere like, look, we're, you know, are we profiting more? Or are we gaining? Are we losing? And, you know, we seen it happen with the Walmart over in Midtown. You know, certain things happen, and there's a rumor, but we have to respect our spaces as well. Like in the city of Milwaukee, we gotta talk to our people. We gotta figure out ways to keep building up morals and ethics in spaces, even when we working. You know, because sometimes we lose these from internal situations where people are doing things behind the scenes, skimming money. You know, you see businesses close. We see people every week, some space in the city, getting caught up with skimming money, doing something.
I see that kind of nationwide.
Nationwide, exactly. And you everywhere. I mean, you see some. I mean, it'd be small fish sometime, you know, local compared to some of the things that go on.
I could tell you some stories.
Exactly, man. You can sit and watch 4 hours of what's that, Greed, American Greed, and you'll get a real reality check to how folks are in and how low they stoop. You know, and this, especially when it comes to business. So what you think if it happens, one person pulls, you know, $2.5 million worth of product or money from an organization or company? Yeah, they're gonna pull that site, or they're gonna change their whole game plan of how and where they put their stores or where they put spaces. And sometimes it can reflect on a community of people, even though it may only be 5 bad or sour apples in the group. You know, sadly, you know, hundreds, or in this case, thousands may be affected because of a few bad apples that might have came in and were doing things in the space, in the store, you know. So
it's always the few that get the most attention too. It's those bad apples that get the news headlines, especially that are plastered on the 6 o'clock news and on the front page of the paper. And it's not the fact that 10,000 other people walked through those doors and did the right thing that day.
Yeah.
But you had 2 or 3 bad ones that came through, and that gets all the news.
Yeah, it's that dollar. You gotta make sure. Look, we gotta make this money. So then it looks like they decided. So I'm praying in my mind, and I'm optimistic. I think somebody will come in and take the spaces, bring in a new grocery store. And sometimes you may have to just look at new ways to set up shop. Hopefully whoever they bring in is on point, and brings in variety, fruits, vegetables, fresh meat,
healthy
options is important. And put it right back there. It's right in Glendale, and then you got 35th Street needs the same attention just as Glendale. Oak Creek needs the same attention as 35th Street, and so on and so forth. So I think that I'm optimistic, and I'm praying that we just don't have these buildings sitting here until they develop into somebody's project for a new condo.
Yeah. That's kind of been the direction that, a store goes out, or a grocery store goes out, or a Walmart goes out. We're going to make it affordable housing, which is great. We want affordable housing, but we also don't want to create a food desert in the midst of, create more housing in the midst of the food desert.
Right. Dude, I'm trying to think, Joe, I was riding somewhere, and it's a spot that I don't know, I was on a deep conversation, but it'll come to me. But I was riding somewhere, and I seen a development going up in a spot that I was just surprised that they slapping some apartments in. I'm like, whoa, they putting some apartments right there. Wherever it was at, it's gonna come to me, but it's more going north, on the other side of Capitol and Hampton. But I was just surprised. It'll come to me within this conversation. But I was like, wow, they putting a development, smacking it right there in the middle of this space, which I thought was, they're come everywhere.
Yeah. And you always have to ask yourself this, and back home, it's a similar situation back where in Ohio, it's in my hometown, which is small. They just lost, well, it was about a year ago, they lost their only pharmacy in town.
Okay.
So now the nearest pharmacy is about a 25-minute drive.
And that's unacceptable for our elderly. Why do they have to go 25 minutes for something they may need in 5 minutes?
The funny thing is the first thing people did is they ran to city council, which you should do, and you should voice your concerns. Like, I want to hear your plan and what you're going to do to fix this. But they was like, well, why can't you just build one? Because the government doesn't go in and build pharmacies. We don't build grocery stores. We don't go in and do things like that. What government does is we create the conditions so they're favorable for someone that does have money, that wants to make that investment.
You got to attract that group. So that means you have to start pitching that space too. Like, in that space, wouldn't that be your responsibility to be pushing that space towards, like, hey, we got this space that'll be good for a pharmacy or good, some healthcare. Is that how y'all would do it in that space?
Well, yeah, and then you have economic development, corporations or whatever. Usually a county or larger municipalities have them, and it's their job to really go out and sell the community.
Right.
And it's their job to go out there and say, hey, we have this. In this case, we have this beautiful big vacant building that you could turn into office space. You could turn into, or say the community needs a pharmacy. The community needs a grocery store. And then really start to go after those people that may be expanding and those investors that are expanding, and say, hey, what can we do to bring you into our neighborhood? What can we do to get, instead of a pick and save, what can we do to get a Kroger? Or what can we do to get, better yet, here's the bigger picture, is what can we do to help support smaller local organizations or businesses to come in and bring in that organic, healthy food, the farm fresh food from just outside the city or outside the county, and bring that in here to put in the midst of the food deserts. How can we support those efforts more? Where can we put our money into organizations that are already doing those things? I think that those are some great solutions to some of that, instead of bringing in the big corporation that's going to push the sugary stuff, the processed foods, the frozen foods. Bring it. Let's focus on bringing something in that supports small local business, supports our farmers, and provides healthy food and a healthy resource for all of our community members.
Yeah, I agree. And we're gonna make sure that we stay on top of that, and there may be a good conversation to have within our circle to see how we can figure that out.
For sure.
All right, we'll be back with more Be a Voice Radio, Wisconsin Voices, 860 WNOV 106.5 FM.
in News.
I'm Jamie Jackson. The Cato Institute is drawing attention to how the Trump administration's deportation efforts are affecting people who aren't violent criminals. According to their report, ICE had booked over 204,000 individuals into detention as of June 14th. Of those, 65% had no criminal convictions. More than 93% had never been convicted of a violent offense. About 9 in 10 had no convictions for violent or property crimes at all. Cato says that more than half of all convictions fell into 3 main categories: immigration violations, traffic offenses, or nonviolent vice crimes. The analysis also found that nearly 45,000 people were booked with only a pending charge, not a conviction, and that ICE sometimes labels these individuals as criminals. Cato says that's misleading and a violation of due process. For AURN News, I'm Jamie Jackson.
I'm Andrea Albers with this Team J4 News update. In comments to reporters outside the White House this morning, President Donald Trump says both Iran and Israel violated a ceasefire agreement that went into effect overnight. The ceasefire comes amid a final wave of Iranian attacks that killed at least 3 people in southern Israel. On Monday, Iran fired missiles at U.S. troops in Qatar in retaliation for U.S. airstrikes on Iranian nuclear sites over the weekend. No injuries were reported. The trial for the man accused of killing a newlywed couple in an Elkhorn bar will continue today. Thomas Rout has pleaded not guilty in the deaths of Gina and Emerson Weingart. The 2 were shot and killed in February of last year at the Sports Page bar during a robbery. Rout is facing life in prison if convicted. Kroger, the parent company of Pick and Save and Metro Market, is closing more than 60 of its stores over the next year and a half. We've now learned that those stores include 5 locations in our area: the West Silver Spring Drive location in Glendale, 2 stores in Milwaukee on 27th and 35th Street, 1 store on West Ryan Road in Oak Creek, and the South Chicago Avenue store in South Milwaukee. Later today, the Milwaukee Common Council will take up the issue of the flag of Milwaukee. The council will vote on the forming of a Milwaukee City Flag Task Force. Its goal will be to manage a new campaign to solicit, evaluate, and recommend a new flag design. The task force is expected to pick a new flag and have it voted on by the council by the end of this year. To watch and read these stories and more, go to teamj4.com.
Here's your updated forecast. We'll see a few scattered showers and thunderstorms here for today with cloudy skies and a high into the upper 70s. We'll have winds out of the northeast around 5 to 10 miles per hour. For tonight, a chance for showers and storms, cloudy, a low near 61. By Wednesday, chance for showers and storms, cloudy, high of 69 degrees. And Thursday, a chance for showers and thunderstorms, cloudy, high of 79. By Friday, another chance for rain and storms, high of 84. Meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki on AM 860, The Voice.
This is Bryan Sanders with Wisconsin Voices. Join me every Monday and Tuesday at 11 a.m. as we break down what's really happening in our communities. From local politics to statewide policy, we're talking civic power, public meetings, voting rights, and how you can hold elected officials accountable. It's not just talk. It's about action, strategy, and building people-powered change. Tune in.
Hi, I'm Joe Dray with Wisconsin Voices. Voting is essential, but real democracy happens every day. Wisconsin Voices helps people take action between elections by organizing, educating, and advocating. If you want to do more than just cast a vote and you want to create real change, this is the place to start. Join the movement for year-round civic power at wisconsinvoices.org.
Remembering what we stand for. At Wisconsin Voices, we remember what we stand for. Check out our movement dedicated to empowering citizens and shaping the future. Engage with us on our website, social media, and podcast to make a difference. Visit wisconsinvoices.org. Explore our events calendar, like and subscribe to us on social media. Listen to recent podcasts and radio, and subscribe to our email and newsletter. Amplify your voice and be a voice today.
860 AM 106.5 FM. WNOV. The Voice.
All right. With our last Ocho Minutos that we have from our in studio producer. Shout out to Jermaine in the building.
Shout out, man.
Yes, sir. So Joe, I know we was hitting some couple comments and stuff, man. You know, I've been seeing a lot of new the concrete pillars. And Jermaine, what you think, man? This is I've been seeing a lot of the concrete, the restructuring and redevelopment of the streets. And for our people that's driving, give us a quick 30-second call. Tell us how that's been for you driving across the city with the new concrete pieces in the street. I know it was a big car accident on 60th and Mill Road when I was out of town this past weekend. I think it was either Saturday or maybe Friday going into Saturday. But it was right there where a lot of the new concrete slab on Mill Road. So already know we got these wild drivers, and now we're creating a tighter space for them. It's been a tight but they created a tighter space for them to maneuver with these concrete slabs. Those slabs, I take that travel. I travel that road every week, at least 3-4 times a week since they changed it. Since they put them concrete pieces there, they're already scuffed up and marked up and got chips on them.
And it's done. You're talking it's like the speed humps or the speed,
the little speed, the concrete slab. The little concrete slabs. To keep you from baseline.
Oh, the bump outs.
The bump outs.
Okay.
Exactly.
But now, man, what they're doing, man, they're baselining on the opposite side now. So instead of baselining on the right side, they'll pull up on the left side, like
going around
the left, and jump right
going around.
You.
That's the new thing. I've had that happen, or not had it happen to me, but it did happen to me because I was in traffic with the rest of the people. But you seen that big time. Oh, we got a caller. Yeah, come on, caller, you are on the air. Be a Voice Radio, Wisconsin Voices. Good morning.
Good morning. I'd like to make a comment.
Yes, sir.
Sure.
I think that the mayor of Milwaukee allowed the wrong decision to make everyone suffer with a handling that the city police should be able to handle without making everyone else as workers suffer. That actually, when you have people in the city and it's growing, you're supposed to expand. This guy allowed these marketers that come through to try to fix and put
Did we lose him?
You went out for a little bit. You still there?
He's still there.
Still online. He probably just got bad connection.
Hey, you got a bad connection.
They all single file line like they up there.
Hey, so can you go back like 20 seconds? You went out for like 20 seconds. Can you give us like the last 20 seconds? Because we heard from when you said to allow these allow the folks to come into the city, and then can you take it from there? Sorry, it went out.
Okay, what I said is that he allowed for these unprofessional, unidealable people to come up in here and to make us suffer with unengineered thought of how it was going to hinder the rest of the people wasn't even thought of. Now you got polices, when they get into an incident, guess what? They're not waiting for no ambulance. They jumping into their squad cars and putting their partners up in the back seat because it's a hindering. People are dying, and they're not going to match it up and say so when you got a city that got premature driving streets, like everyone is bad and don't know one have a job to pertain to get there on time. That I just think that the mayor of here needs to be recalled because he's not making any idealable resources that will solve anything. All that concrete could have been for actually pothole or pavement around the city, but we're getting asphalt cheap treatment from the city where they got them just dropping asphalt in our area just to cover up things and not really give us our full tax preference of what we spending our money for.
It's called tar and chip is what,
tar and chip.
And also for charging people tax for registration for these vehicles is outdated because if you're not taking care of these roads, you cannot heist and hold everybody accountable to riding on your roads that is messed up, and then you expect for when we hit a pothole they make claim that, if it was not already called in, you can't not get your car fixed. That is bull crap. We pay tax for this system to work right, not to extract and say, hey, we're going to charge y'all to ride up on these bad roads, even though that is making marketive for the state. When you tap your car, guess what? The state get money because you're going to have to go and buy a car part from the park department, and everything going to be taxed out all the way through there when there's no one really taking heed to these streets are being allowed to be rolled on, in which there are war-infested potholes. We should not have to report to the city when they got drivers themselves that they can have monitor systems driving daily showing actual X-ray of their own street.
Yep.
So
you're right. You're right there. And here's what we used to do back when I was a city council member: is we would have the police and the fire department and the transit people that were out there on the roads every day, and they would be the ones that would report back to the city and say, hey, we noticed a pothole over here, or we noticed a street light out over here. And then we would get those together every month and then go through and say, okay, maintenance, here's what needs to be fixed.
Yeah. But how many squad cars are getting towed up there secretly that I could say that the citizens are paying for to get fixed?
Right.
There's a lot of squad cars between Menominee Valley and Valita. I see a lot of beat up squad cars in my time.
They take a beating normally, just driving them on the road.
I mean, you can hear them. Some of them sound like they got some loose ball joints.
And these speed bumps, I just think this is the dumbest thing to do. Because first of all, they put a 911 system out saying you can't discipline your child, which when I used to get my butt whooping, and the only thing they taught you right and wrong. What it is, these kids has been living decades of not being disciplined. And the thing is, they're punishing all the elders that did and paved the way for to live their life. Now we hitting potholes, and we can't even drive sport cars because the doggone speed bumps is not really registered for you to see. And by the time you hit it, you done tore up your Corvette. I done tore up like 4 different sets of brand new rims that were $3,000 a piece. I didn't even think about to even go to the city because they just gonna give you the runaround. Thank you. I appreciate you.
We appreciate you. Thanks for calling in. We really appreciate you. So he got me thinking. So when I get my Corvette, I'm gonna have to figure out some things first.
Ain't no driving here.
Ain't no driving. I guess I'm gonna be going straight outside the city. Thank you. So we need to make sure we regulate our streets. Come on, City of Milwaukee. You hear your people talking. This is Be a Voice Radio, Wisconsin Voices. Bryan and Joe. Thank y'all again. God bless y'all. We'll see y'all Monday and Tuesday.